So we built this building last summer as an equipment storage building, as well as a workspace for the sawmill and for our firewood production here in inclement weather when it's raining out, snowing out, or 90 degrees and a UV index of 8. And one thing that we never did before winter like we should have was taking care of our downspout drainage around the building. When we put the building up, we made sure that we have a little bit of a swale on this side of the building that will send water out around that way and out around this way. This is actually the highest point of the swale, which is still lower than inside the building, but that way water goes out and around. The problem, as you can see here, is when we get rain or snow or frost that comes up out of the ground, this area gets wet and stays wet. And we've got downspout drain lines on all four corners of the building, and they just stub out right here. And that's what we want to take care of today. And I've got just the perfect tool to try out, but we've got to modify it first. All right, so this is the Baumalight mini skid, model number TRL 630D. You guys have seen this in videos already, and then we've got an attachment for it here that's going to help us with this downspout drain line project. This is a trencher made specifically for a mini skid, also made by Baumalight, model number TN236. However, the way that this was shipped to us with a 4-inch chain, we've got to do some modifications to it. Let me show you why. So I had dug a little small test trench with the trencher to see if it was going to make a big enough trench for the type of material that I wanted to bury. It's partially backfilled now, but for those downspout drain lines, I want to use 4-inch corrugated solid pipe. And as you can see, when they say that's a 4-inch trencher, they mean it, not a 1/4 of an inch any bigger. And so this pipe does not fit down into that 4-inch trench. It probably would, but you would be fighting with it. And I'm going to be laying down probably 600, 700 foot of this stuff because I want to take the downspout drain lines from that building down there and run it all the way down to pond number 2. Now, luckily for me, Baumalight makes a spacer block kit that will allow you to convert this 4-inch trenching chain into a 6, 8, or 10-inch trenching chain, depending on what your needs are. I'm not sure if this kit will be able to do all three or if it's just one or the other. We'll have to open it up and take it out and look to see what they sent. But yeah, otherwise, this entire trencher would have been useless for the project that what I need to use it for right now. I would have had to have dug my trenches with the excavator. But with something as simple as this box, I can go from an electric line or a 1 or 2-inch water line chain to probably a 6 or 8-inch chain that I can do this downspout drainage line project with. So let's see what's inside this box here. All right, let's see what we got here. Well, that's pretty simple. Just some spacing blocks and some hardware. I think this is going to be an easy job, but a tedious job. We got to do each tooth individually. So when I look at this chain, I can tell that this whole spacer block idea to convert a 4-inch chain into a 6-inch chain was not an afterthought. And that's because if you look at the alignment of the teeth, you have 2 outer teeth, 2 more outer teeth, and then 2 inner teeth. So the reason you have 2 sets of outer teeth is so that one of them can be adjusted. So we're going to go ahead and we've got enough spacer blocks here to do 12 sets of teeth left and right. So we'll do this one, leave these, push these outer ones further out. Then these ones will be at a 4-inch spacing, and then this one will be what cleans out the inside of the track. And then if you look, then you have 2 more sets of outside teeth. So these ones will get spaced out, these ones will be the 4-inch, and then these ones will be the inside of the trench. All right, so we'll do this first one together, and then I'll go ahead and just get the rest of them done and show you what it looks like when we're all finished up. They do offer replacement bolts because the original bolts, once you add that spacer in there, is not going to be long enough. So you've got a different set of bolts to put in for these when you go ahead and widen this out. I do think that this kit is only going to turn this trencher into a 6-inch trencher, which should be enough for what we need to do. Gotta make sure I don't lose that bolt. Okay, so now we've taken, these are the original bolts, and these are the new ones. You can see they're long enough just to compensate for that spacer block that's going to be in there. But I think we're also going to take this that was on the inside of your guide rail, and we're going to move it to the outside with the spacer block like so. And so that's just going to push that out just a little bit wider. So this is the spacer block, and now instead of, if you look on this one, that is on the inside, we are now moving that to the outside of the tooth. There we go, 1 done, 11 more to go. All right, I got them all on there, and I think this is going to work out really well. So you've got your 2 inside teeth here, and then you've got your 2 4-inch space teeth there, and then you've got your 2 teeth that were spaced out to make a 6-inch trench. So you've got pretty much all your bases covered to make that trench. I actually want to see what the spacing is between what those spacer blocks did. So if you look, yeah, right there, from the outside of that tooth to the outside of that tooth is about 6 inches. From the outside of that tooth to this tooth is about 4 inches. And then this one here is going to be cleaning out the inside of the trench, and I mean, those teeth are right on top of each other there. But there's a side profile look. Inside, 4-inch, 6-inch. I think this is going to work really well. We got to go get some pipe to put in this trench.
About another couple feet. A little more, Adam. Good.
So as we're making our way through this intersection, we're getting ready to pass the CPA firm where I get my taxes done. All I can think about every time I drive past this in the middle of the day at 11 o'clock is how fortunate I am to be in the position that I am, that I'm no longer an accountant sitting behind a desk on a beautiful day like today. Instead, I'm driving a new to me Ford Super Duty with a 25-foot deck over trailer heading to go pick up building supplies. Every once in a while, I find myself having these moments of clarity where I can truly appreciate where I am in life and how far we've come and how we've gotten here. All right, the only thing left to do now is to go ahead and start trenching. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm going to get this started right here at the downspout with the excavator, get a nice big wide open hole, and then start my trench going down to pond number 2 with the trencher. Just that way I've got room to work in here, get my adapters on, pipe in, pipe bent and all that, and then we'll go to the 6-inch trench. All right, so I got about 48 feet of this trench done. The first probably 15 or 20 feet went really well because it was just straight clay. Could have used some of that in the pond. But as we got down around here, we transitioned into just straight shale rock. And you can see I actually pulled out a big boulder right there, so I had to hop in the excavator and clean that out. And this little section here was done with the excavator, and then I switched back to the trencher. But it's just really tough sledding right now with this pure shale down in the bottom of this hole. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to hop in the excavator and just get across the road till I get to the grassy area where it's more topsoil and clay, and then we'll hop back on the trencher. I was considering just, you know, keeping going with the trencher all the way through this, because the benefit to a trencher is it just makes so much less work when you go to backfill. This is a nice, neat, tidy trench, and all your backfill material is right here, and it's a lot less disturbance. Whereas you'll see when I hop in the excavator and do this section here, I'm going to make a much bigger mess. It's going to be a lot more work to clean up on the backfill side.
Excavator on your property.
What do you mean?
I don't know if you got enough uses for one.
Yeah. Well, I love all the people that say, oh, you've got $400,000 in firewood equipment to make, you know, $10,000 worth of firewood every year. And it's like, well, the excavator, you can't count that in it because I use it for so many other things besides just firewood, like projects like this.
I think every time I come over here, you're in the excavator doing something with it.
Yeah. Well, how many hours, what does that say for hours on there right now? What does that say? So yeah, this thing had 600 hours on it when I bought it, and now we're at 1,044. So I've put about 450 hours on it in the last 2 or 3 years. And I would be willing to guess that maybe 100 or 150 of those hours are actually firewood. The rest is doing stuff like this, dirt moving or material handling or stuff like that. Yeah, I think it's safe to say it would have been a mistake to continue this trench across the driveway with the mini skid and the trencher. Look at the material that we pulled out here with the excavator. Just straight shale rock, and not small pieces either. Big chunks. I think we definitely would have broke something. But this is back to my point about the difference in the cleanliness of the trench with the trencher versus the excavator. This is going to take, I mean, a lot more soil had to come out because I only have a 12-inch bucket on there. And you know, you get spread out a lot more with an excavator than you do with the trencher. All this stuff is ready to just be flopped right back in on top of the pipe, whereas this is going to take a little bit more pushing. Well, that went way smoother than up above where there was all the shale. You can see this is pretty clean topsoil type material here. But one thing I found interesting is I think I figured out where my pond water is going. You can see this trench was dug about 5 minutes ago and it's already full of water. If you look down in here, we already have a puddle sitting there at the bottom of the trench. And you can actively see water running. And this whole area over here is wet. So essentially the water from the pond up there is permeating down through the ground and working its way down to pond number 2, which is not ideal, but it's not the worst thing in the world because we have the RPS solar pump pumping water from this pond back up to pond number 1 and essentially just recycling it.
What are you doing?
I'm the king of the rock! Oh yeah, baby! Oh yeah, baby! Ah! Mommy.
Don't worry, I have the key.
All right, I got one out of the 4 downspout drain lines done. Probably the most important one though, because it's in and around the work area there. Plus, as you can see, I've got 3 loads of stone here. getting out of the mud is one of those projects that you got to do about 3 things before you can get to actually putting the stone down. Getting the downspout drain lines done is one of those things, because I don't want to put all the stone down and have to come back in here and tear it all back up. But I'm probably not going to film the other 3 corners of the building or the other 3 downspout drain lines, just because once you've seen me put in a 200-foot long trench here, you've seen me do them all and put the pipe in the ground. But I did want to show you real quick, you know, we backfilled this whole section here, so at least I can get that stone in on that section done over there and drive in and out of the building. But what I want to do, my plan for the rest of it is, this downspout drain line right here, I want to run that right over, and I'm going to put that drain line in the same trench, not the same pipe. I'm not going to tee these 2 together because I don't ever want to overwhelm just that 4-inch line. I want to make sure I've got plenty of space or capacity in the pipe for the water to get down to the pond there. And then when I go do the other side of the building, I'll backfill this whole one here, and I'll put those 2 lines in the same trench going down that way. And I'll try to have them both come out into the pond around the same point. Anyways, guys, that's going to about wrap this one up. The trencher on the mini skid steer worked great as long as you're not in 100% shale rock. The visibility on this thing versus a full-size skid loader, or you guys have seen me in the past put Doug's trencher on the mini excavator, and you really can't see what you're doing. But with this thing here, you can see up, over, and down into the trench to see what you're doing. It worked great. But again, if you're going to be in an area that is known to be pretty rocky, I probably would forego a trencher and just go straight to a mini excavator. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, give me a big thumbs up, click that subscribe button, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.